Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Alina Binti Izham Haniff. Today I will make a case review about the case Nurhayati Binti Nursal versus Saifol bin Sulong. Fact of the case. In this case, Nurhayati Binti Nursal versus Saifol bin Sulong, the plaintiff, who is Nurhayati, made a hadana claim against her ex-husband Saifol, who is the defendant. The plaintiff and the defendant were married on 6 June 2007 and got divorced on 4 January 2012. And during the marriage, the plaintiff and the defendant were blessed with 2 children, the first of whom was Muhammad Shafiq Hakimi bin Abdullah, who was 10 years old. And Muhammad Shafiq Hakimi is the first child, who is an illegitimate child. And Muhammad Saharul Hafiz Akil bin Saifol, 9 years old, is the second child, biological child of the plaintiff and the defendant. On 13 March 2017, the plaintiff filed a claim in court to seek for full custody of the children. And both of the children have been in the plaintiff custody since birth. And throughout the marriage until the divorce, the defendant did not care about the 2 children. However, in this case, the plaintiff and the defendant tried to settle down their disagreement through a pseudo session. On 16 April 2017 at 10 a.m., the conciliation between plaintiff and the defendant took place at Sulong Meeting Room 4 of Kuala Terengganu Syariah High Court. Next, we move to the parties involved in this case. Firstly, the plaintiff, Nurhayati Binti Nursal, is the defendant's ex-wife. Nurhayati in this case filed a hadana claim towards defendant to get full custody for her 2 children. The next party is the defendant, who is Saifol bin Sulong. The defendant is the plaintiff's ex-husband, and the defendant had married someone else after the divorce with the plaintiff. Next, we move to the issue in this case. The issue in this case is whether the plaintiff can get full custody of her first child and her second child according to the law and the hukum syara. To the arguments by the parties. Firstly, argument made by the plaintiff. The plaintiff argued that she was entitled to the custody of her children. She also argued that the defendant was not entitled to full custody because her ex-husband had married another woman and expected a child with the woman. An argument by the defendant, who is the Saifol opposed the claim, arguing that he was the better parent and better than Nurhayati. Nurhayati also not financially stable enough to care for the children. He also alleged that Nurhayati had a history of mental illness and was unfit to be a mother. Next, we move to the court decision. In this case, was heard at the Terengganu Syariah Court in the state of Terengganu. According to Section 11, Subsection 3, Clause B3 of the Syariah Court Terengganu, Enactment of 2001, the court has the power to hear and decide all action and proceeding of Muslims. Among the examples of permissible proceeding are such as maintenance of dependence, legality or guardianship or custody of children, hadana. And regarding the right of custody for the first child, who was an illegitimate child, the court has the power to hear and decide the hadana claim according to the enactment of the Islamic Family Administration Law of Terengganu 1985. Under this provision, Section 84 that specifies that the mother and the mother's family are responsible for the care of illegitimate children, and it's clearly a particular provision under the category of custody of illegitimate children in this enactment. Therefore, this implies that as opposed to the father, the mother and her family are entitled to custody of an illegitimate child. And the court also refers to a hadith from the Prophet Prophet Muhammad SAW, regarding who is eligible to receive custody of an illegitimate child. An Abi Hurairah, قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الولد للفراش وللعاهر الحجار, meaning the illegitimate child is the right of the mother and the father is stone only. Therefore, based on this hadith, it is clearly stated that the plaintiff is more worthy of getting custody of her first child because the custody of guardianship of a child born out of wedlock or whose lineage is not confirmed, an illegitimate child, and belongs to the mother or next of kin. Therefore, the court ruled that custody of the first child was given to the plaintiff because the plaintiff was more qualified and the defendant did not have custody of the first child because defendant has no blood relation with the first child based on hukum syara and the law. Whether the mother get the full custody of the second child, who is the biological child of defendant and the plaintiff. Therefore, the court also ruled that the plaintiff was also entitled to get custody for the second child. In the court perspective, the plaintiff gets custody because she fulfills the requirement as Hadinah. Hadinah is the woman who have the right to educate children are entitled to exercise custody rights according to Section 80 Class 1 of the Terengganu Islamic Family Administration Law Enactment of 1985. And this section states that the mother is the one who has the most right to take care of her child compared to everyone else when they are still married or divorced. In addition, the plaintiff gets custody because she was the biological mother of the child. The court also determined this decision according to Islamic law, such as by referring to Kitab Al by Imam Shafi'i. In this kitab, فإن الشافعي رضي الله عنه يقول فإذا افترق الأبوان وهما في قرية واحدة فالأم الحق بوالدها ما لم تتزوج وما كانوا صغارا. Meaning that Shafi'i said, when parents separate and they are both in the same room, the mother has more right over her child as long as she is not married to another and while the child is still small. After examining the case, the court was satisfied that the plaintiff, who is the mother, was qualified in Hadana for the welfare of the second child as the father. However, the court did not prevent the defendant from visiting the second child because if the court prevented it, it would be an act that could break the relationship between the child and the father. This is something that is forbidden in Islam. In addition, the court allowed the defendant to visit and spend the night with the second child as had been agreed between the plaintiff and the defendant in the conciliation meeting. Through the conciliation agreement made between the plaintiff and the defendant, both parties agreed that custody of the first child was given to the plaintiff. Lastly, we move to the commentary of the writer about this case. In the writer's point of view, the writer agrees with the decision made by the court to grant custody of the first and second child to the plaintiff, the biological mother of these two children. This is because the first child is an illegitimate child, and according to Islam, the mother is a person who deserves custody because the father does not have a blood relationship with the first child. While the reason given by the court to give custody of the second child to the plaintiff is also a good reason because the court made the decision based on Islamic perspective and the law. However, in terms of Islamic law, although the second child is given the option to choose either the plaintiff or defendant to care for him, the biological mother's right to care is stronger because the second child is still small and needs to be under the best care. From a legal point of view, the court considers the welfare of the child in making the decision. Therefore, in the opinion of the writers, the decision made was a fair and equitable one. Additionally, this case is an example of how the Sharia court in Malaysia can be used to protect the rights of women and children. In this case, the court was able to ensure that the child were placed in the care of the parent who was best able to meet their needs. The case also highlights that mothers should prohibit the conditions that will affect the custody of the child, such as caring for the child properly and provide a good place to live. Otherwise, custody of the child will be impaired. And lastly, this case deserves an attention because the disagreement was settled in solution. Islam defines suluh as excellent peace. This instance demonstrates the various advantages Sulong session offer to disputing parties, including the ability to obtain the most significant custody arrangement for their case. That's all from me. Thank you.